Welcome to 10 Minutes with Barb and Ron. And look who we have as a guest. Who do we have, Barb?
It's so exciting. We have the UDL queen, Katie Novak.
Oh, man, she is. You're right. We have got the queen, the ninja, she is UDL. If you go to one of those AI things now and you say, what is universal design for learning? And it comes up and it first off puts Katie's name in there and then says, whatever afterwards.
Katie Novak, UDL ninja.
Pretty much, except it really explains things. Poor Dave should be jealous if I were him.
Well, he used to say when we presented together, I remember once he's like, when we get up together and present, this is, David Rose, the godfather of UDL. He'd go, I'll be the brains, you be the jazz. I'm like, hey, I'm more than jazz. Don't put baby in a corner over here, David Rose. And oh my gosh, he used to laugh about it, but he's like, you're much jazzier than I am.
Yeah, I'll never forget that time when you were at SST 7 and Barb had you there and you told everybody, you were, oh shoot, what was it? You were like I won't say the animal on crack.
Oh yeah, that would be a squirrel.
I was thinking it was a ferret or something, but
no,
it was a squirrel.
Or like a squirrel on crack. That somebody actually said that to me. And the best part is right, like we talk about UDL is about voice and choice. And I was saying that like as leaders, it's really important that we are willing to take hard feedback and model the difficulty of feedback. And so I said, I want you to imagine like a little tiny cartoon angel on your shoulder and then like a little cartoon devil on your shoulder. And like clearly I could be an acquired taste for a lot of people. And a lot of you could say, well, someone might say about Katie Novak, she talks too fast, for an example, that comes up quite a bit. Or recently someone commented on a video made that they felt like I was using all of these hand motions as like a brainwashing technique, which they gave me way too much credit for that. But I'm like, no. And so I basically said, like, I have pretty good self-awareness. And if I said to my staff, what are some things that are really barriers to my instruction? What might someone say? And it was very expected. I talk really fast and my transitions aren't really clear. And then someone's like, someone could say you're like a squirrel on crack. And I was like, and so I read it out loud to model, like, I appreciate the imagery and the woman's like, the exercise was like to insult you, and other people were like reasonable, and she totally sold herself out. And I was like, tell me more about that, because I'm trying to model. Sometimes you get these zingers, but no, that was like one of my favorite things ever.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's going to be our advertiser for this one, Barb. It is. That right there. That's our advertiser right there. So now here comes the question.
Very close attention to the middle of her palms.
Here comes the question. It just came to my mind. Katie, if you could write the perfect book, who would you, and you don't have to answer the first part, who would you do it with, and what would be the title? And if you don't want to say who you would want to do it with, but what would be the title?
I'll tell you who I have my eyes on.
Okay.
The brilliant Shelley Moore.
Yeah.
So Shelley Moore and I have been collaborating so much on these big projects, and her and I are actually going to have an opportunity to be together for a week in person in California. And we joke about we're going to run to each other in slow motion with like UDL flowers. And I would absolutely love to collaborate with her. And we've joked about it, and we're going to call it the inclusion bus. Get on the damn bus. And it's going to have rainbows. It's going to be like a British double-decker bus. But yeah, get on the inclusion bus, and we're driving, baby.
I could see myself videoing that for you. Couldn't you, Barb?
There you go. Yes, absolutely. Well,
I can't drive, obviously, because I need my hands for the brainwashing.
So, Barb, do you have a question for her? She answered that one terribly easy.
She did. Well, actually, one of my questions is more serious. So when we look forward to where we're going with UDL, what do you envision?
Goodness gracious. So
wow.
I don't see a world yet that we're going to go back to this one size fits all. So I think that the future of UDL is recognizing that there are barriers that will be identified that we aren't even aware of yet. And so I think that moving forward, our vision for what students deserve is going to evolve, because I think that, 10 years ago, it was all about access and inclusion. And now it's like deeper learning and building these muscles as being, more innovative and critical thinking. And so I think that our vision for what we want for students will evolve, just because technology and the evidence base is evolving. And I do think that we're always going to have to talk about what are the barriers that are preventing us from doing that, mindset wise, skill set wise, and also just in our systems. So I think that guidelines are going to evolve. Goodness gracious, the evidence base is going to evolve, and technology clearly is going to continue to play a really important role in this. But I don't see that we're ever going to get to a place where we're like, let's go back to doing the same exact thing for everybody. So I'm confident that we're moving in the right direction, but I'm also not frozen in my belief that this is going to be the thing that we need to do forever. I am very open to what is having the most significant impact on the students that we're serving. Mm-hmm. And then if there are more evidence-based practices or a framework that leads us in that direction, then that is a direction that I'm happy to take.
Yeah, love it.
Wow, I wouldn't expect anything less.
Yeah.
So, what it just made me think of? Your question about the book. I got like a teaching job once because of my answer to a question. So I had taught high school English for a couple of years, and then I was moving back home to where I live in New England in Massachusetts. And I applied for a job, and I remember getting in the interview, and the principal told me, as soon as you answered that question, I was like, we have to hire her. So I was applying for an English job, teaching middle school English. And so he's like, all right, so, you're going to be an English teacher. Talk to me about, like, you're on a desert island. You only can bring one book with you, like one book. What is it going to be? I'm like, how to survive on a desert island? And he was like, and I was like, I'm not trying to be like, it would be ridiculous. Like, I'm not going to bring, like, the Confederacy of Dunces, right? I need to know, like, what can I eat? What can I not eat? Like, how am I going to, like, get rid of the sunburn and the snake bites? And he was like, as soon as you said that, I was like, the way that her brain thinks. He said, because we interviewed so many people that were like, my favorite book is Dr. Seuss, Oh, the Places You'll Go, or like these books of poetry or a journal. And I'm like, no, real practical, right? I need to know, how do I live on this place until someone rescues me?
Spoken like a true expert learner, I'd say.
I would too. Well, as she was going through all of that, another question hit me right in the forehead. So, when you're approached for a movie, Life and Times of Katie Novak, and implementation of Universal Design for Learning, where are you going to take the cast to do some of those films? Filmings of some of the good things that are happening.
I honestly, and this sounds like super, super cheesy, but I think our biggest issue in every school, every district is variation in performance. And I think you could go anywhere and see amazing things happening. It's just that right now we have these pockets of excellence. We have these brilliant, exemplary, inclusive teachers. We have some grades or some classrooms or some schools. But I, honest to goodness, think that you could go anywhere with this very, very famous cast and be like, talk to me here about who has a great impact on kids. Talk to me here about the people who are willing to try new things and deconstruct practices, to serve the learners who they have and not the learners that we hope or wish that they would be. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I've ever been to a school where I didn't go into a couple of classrooms and say, whew, if everyone was doing this, this would be a much, much different place. And it's just that, the teaching profession historically, especially in the United States, has just been so isolated. And we don't get to see all of those practices all the time. So it's really difficult to scale. We don't have time to observe and co-plan and measure.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Well, Barb, we've got time for one more question.
Oh, my goodness. Well, So you talk about inclusive practices and inclusion, and so I'm always thinking about our learners with disabilities and the system that we have created for them. And so I think there are some barriers within that system, and I'm curious what you have seen in that area that is creating some barriers for us.
Mm-hmm. So I do a lot of work now just on talking about like, how do we build a system that works for all kids using a lot of what we've learned from implementation science. And I can tell you exactly what those barriers are. It is, a lack of having that competency and that skill set to actually include all students, because we know that we have to put students in the least restrictive environment available to them. And some environments are still incredibly restrictive simply because teachers don't recognize yet the barriers, or don't have the skill set to eliminate those barriers, or don't have the resources to be more flexible. Yeah. So this might be technology, it could be high quality instructional materials. We're talking about a system that has lots of drivers that are incredibly archaic. So the schedule, the way that we staff classrooms, like these are your kids and these are your kids, when we have all of these brilliant people, and it's like, why don't we have a more flexible way to meet the needs of students? So I would say our professional development models need to change. I would say that the way that we adopt curriculum and high quality resources, the way that we schedule, our responsiveness to valid, reliable, and authentic sources of data, that you don't get to make a plan all year and follow it. That's not how this works. How do we create these like rapid cycles of improvement? But we need different data cultures, which means we need stronger leadership, which means we need family and community engagement. So I think in some way, everything about the system actually creates a barrier for us to do what we need to do to actually meet the needs of kids. And a lot of the work on multi-tiered systems is just recognizing that those things are problems and creating action plans to strategically address them over time, which allows us to better serve our students, our teachers, and our families.
No small feat there.
All small things.
A little bit.
Well,
Awesome.
Katie, you're always incredible. We promised you 10 minutes and we'd be out. It's been 10 minutes. So thank you.
So much fun.
Thank you. So I'll get my thank yous in first and then Barb can hers. So I'm thanking you. It's been so good to see you and be able to talk for a few minutes. Ron's out.
And I thank you too. When I relearned about UDL, the two people on the screen right here are who I learned from. First, Dr. Ron Rogers, and then Katie Novak. And so it's just an honor to be here with you guys. Thank you, Katie.
Well, I loved the reunion. It was fabulous to see your faces, and look forward to just continuing to lean in and, try to deconstruct these systems that truly don't work for anybody anymore.
It's true.
Bye, everybody.
See you next time.
YouTube, please subscribe. Like, comment, and share.